Does clean energy have a real future in 2025? With the election coming up just a few days away, there are serious concerns and questions around the viability of clean energy projects, investments, and funding that itself has seen a significant slowdown in 2024. The race itself is extremely tight, and so are the stakes. And as it turns out, certain types of sectors are going to perform better than others, and right now, the ones at the top of the charts seem to be energy, particularly renewables. It doesn't really matter who you support. Energy security and independency is top of mind for every American voter. After all, it's a question of national security, reducing costs, and increasing job creation at a time when the unemployment rate is starting to rise and consumers are seeing record high payments for every single item. And as it turns out, investing in clean energy resources such as nuclear, solar, wind, hydrogen act as great support for reducing these prices and increasing energy security. Sure, in the short term, there's skepticism galore, and this is a very highly debated topic. But the facts don't lie. Job creation from clean energy is significant, and particularly in the states that are most underprivileged, has clean energy investments helped create jobs, increase security, and secure supply chains within the country itself. But with the decline in profitability for so many of these companies, both established and also startups, questions are arising as to what could happen if there's a red wave. And well, as it turns out, folks, fortunately, probably not a lot. That's right, folks. Things like the Green New Deal and the Inflation Reduction Act, which Donald Trump has vowed to axe out of the face of the earth for the United States, given a lot of these policies were supported by the previous administration, are unlikely to be significantly tampered if he wins next week. And here's exactly why that's the case. First of all, it's important to realize that the Green New Deal, similar to the Paris Agreement, is just a set of words. These are not laws or actual rules or regulations that corporations have to abide by. These are simply memorandums of understandings and proposals of what can be done and what needs to be done. As a result, any affection or lack of affection for these proposals and even something like the climate agreements with Paris are not guarantees of where policy will actually head. You need to first realize, folks, that politics is still politics. No matter which side you're on, what these candidates are saying in their rallies and on the public stage leading up to an election are just words. They are so-called promises they're making to garner votes. Nothing more and nothing less. It's a race against time. These policies are not going to be vetted, or these candidates are not going to be held accountable for whether or not they engage with them or not. Both candidates have their own target demographics to target their own specific type of candidates and voters that they're trying to accompany with and trying to explore. And as has happened many times in the past, policies and big comments made by these politicians in an election cycle don't end up materializing, not only due to their own lack of understanding, but perhaps more importantly because of opposition with the House and the Senate, which require a lot more votes to pass or take away a passed bill. The Paris Agreement, as a matter of fact, was more so a risk of national security and data privacy than it was an actual policy issue when Trump resigned from it in November of 2020. Because as you can see, the agreement provided a pathway for the developed nations, like the United States, to assist other developing nations in climate mitigation by creating a framework for monitoring and reporting of those countries' climate goals and also the United States'. Not only has support for the Inflation Reduction Act's climate sections increased a lot over the past few years, as there have been real manufacturing investment in US industries, not only in blue states, but actually majority in red states, the chances of this bill getting completely rescinded under Trump have since greatly reduced because of support in the House and the Senate. What's more is that a lot of Trump's own allies in industries like Occidental Petroleum, Energy Transfer, Chevron, and yes, even Elon Musk's with Tesla hold billions of dollars in investments that qualify for a lot of the lucrative tax credits that the Inflation Reduction Act has proposed. Meaning if Trump would do anything to rescind them, there would be a lot of losses for some of his own investors and allies. This is really important because it would add a lot of influential voices to some of the trade groups and the lawmakers that have already stood up in favor of specific IRA subsidies for clean energy technologies. What's more is that although Trump is undermining clean energy through his campaign, the reality is he isn't completely against investing in clean energy production within the United States. Although it goes against his narrative of drill, baby drill, there are a lot of industries that still rely on clean energy production that support oil and gas. NextEra Energy, for example, is one of the biggest developers of clean energy projects, but they also happen to be a massive producer and developer of electric grid technology, which happens to be one of the main targets of not only Harris's campaign, but also Trump's grid resiliency targets. And with Trump now having garnered support from Elon Musk and his own crowd and pool of investors, the odds of him being negative clean energy and electric vehicles if he is elected is pretty minimal. In fact, he stated that necessarily what he cares about more is not forcing a specific type of technology on anybody and not giving it an unfair advantage. Meaning the potential cancellation of the $7,500 tax credit for electric cars made in the United States, which obviously is something the Biden administration forced upon consumers in 2022. And guess what? As a lot of investments in oil reduce prices of oil for consumers and bring down inflation, corporations that sell and make oil are not going to be as profitable as they had been when oil was much higher. This is going to naturally increase the attractiveness for these big corporations to invest in alternative technologies, such as clean energy, if the government can provide them a way of clarity from policy and from incentives, something which the Inflation Reduction Act's climate policies have already done. And with somebody like China leading the way for electric vehicles and potentially flooding the global market with cheap batteries and solar panels, the reality is the US needs to invest aggressively. And it's pretty obvious that Trump and his advisor council understand that, as they've seen the industry grow from its nascent stages already during his first presidency. As you can see, after 2017, when Trump took office, the stock Clean Energy ETF, ICLN, actually performed relatively well, giving gains of significant magnitude up until the pandemic hit, which goes well against what many people assumed would have happened during the same time. This was as a result of not only great policy from an interest rate and capital perspective, but also the lack of actual execution against a lot of these clean energy policies that Trump had initially talked about during his campaign, which is likely going to continue even though, yes, a lot of the policies, such as the basic tax credits, could get pulled back. And well, just look at how this index has performed since 2021, down almost 50% from its all-time highs after peaking in the early parts of 2020. Which shows you just how unpredictable markets can truly be, and hints at the benefits of being a contrarian during times of extreme uncertainty. Regardless of who you support, folks, the reality is there's an opportunity and already a significant momentum in clean energy. And regardless of which side the tables turn towards, there are still great tailwinds, and the results are going to be impressive. As usual, folks, let me know your thoughts on the situation down in the comment section below. And thanks a lot for watching. Take care.